Hello and welcome back to another episode of That Podcast. My name is Ryan Janke, and as always, I am joined by Pastor DJ Lura and Sarah DeYoung. I thought you were going to use that little red box. Oh, there it goes. Like, was that Wubsy? Which one had pow? No, or was that Blue's Clues?
That's Blue's Clues.
Yeah, Blues Clues.
Blues Clues.
Yeah, we just figured out Blues Clues. Are we going to get in trouble for that? I better not sing for the YouTubes.
I don't think so. You'll be good.
Oh, okay.
We'll see.
And this video is cut.
Flagged.
Right there.
We'll see you all next week.
You can use up to like 15 seconds, can't you? Or like 5
usually.
seconds or something?
I feel like that would fall under like, not satire, but like a cover.
Oh, sure.
If someone were to listen closely, they would be able to tell we were not singing the same notes because we were off key by quite a bit.
That's true.
Or I was, at least.
That's true. We're probably going to catch flack. I just realized this right now.
Why?
Well, as we record through the Easter season, and we don't have a camera set up in this room.
Dun-dun.
Did we say we were going to?
I feel like, though,
our excuse for not video recording was Lent and being busy.
Well, let me just say, for those of you wondering what you see when you look in here, we've all been hitting the weights.
Oh yeah.
So we're all ripped.
I also feel like what we haven't said is we should almost be sitting like with construction hats on because our podcast room is going through a transformation.
It is. It's exciting though.
Yeah.
With the drywall off the wall and
yep.
Looks like the future of a window is going to be right there.
Well, I don't want
Guess we'll find out.
Are we going to be like an exhibit in a zoo so people can walk by?
We're going to
and
need
see
a
us?
sign. Please don't tap the glass. It scares the fish.
I kind of hope so, really.
That's cool. Hey, you said a word, and I've always wondered about this word. I know exactly what you mean.
Is it bussin'?
No, I just still don't know what that means.
Terrible.
Nor am I allowed to use it, apparently. And I've tried it. I've looked in the mirror and said it, and I'm like, You're way too old. Old man saying that just doesn't seem to.
Well, that's why I don't do it into the mirror, because then I'll be like, yeah, I better stop. And I don't want to.
Is that a part of like your morning routine? Like you're brushing your teeth, doing your hair, bussin'. Just going through a couple.
Bussin'.
Okay, so what's the word?
The word is flack.
Flack. Oh,
What is flack? I know what you mean, but it just dawned on me. I actually don't know what flack is.
Well, that
in my head, I pictured like skin dust.
Yeah. Well, you've heard of like a flak jacket, right?
Is that what it's called? Is a flak jacket?
Yeah, there's a flak jacket.
I thought it was like a flat jacket with a T.
No, I don't think so. I think it's flak. Flak. Because...
is it like bulletproof stuff?
It is the bursting shells fired from artillery.
Well, that makes much more sense than a flat jacket.
Or it could also mean...
Because a flak jacket is a bulletproof vest, right?
A great deal of adverse criticism, which is what I meant.
That's how you used it. You used it in its proper way.
Do you want to try to say the German pronunciation of where this word came from?
Yes.
I have it pulled up there, Ryan, if you want to.
Is it 42 letters like some of the best?
That's pretty
German?
close. I'll just let you take a gander at that.
Oh, far from puking. No.
You got to put it in Google
There's
Translate.
an L in there.
Flagerwerkononin. I have no idea. Farfignugan. Remember those commercials?
Someday I will be a beautiful butterfly. That's what I think of when I hear those words.
Such a good one.
Yeah, I have no idea. Don't know how to pronounce it.
So flak. It means like taking fire, percussive fire,
Flak.
or vocal percussive shrapnel.
Yep.
Being thrown at you.
Yep.
I got you.
Word shrapnel.
Yeah. That makes a lot more sense than flat jacket. Flat jacket doesn't make a whole lot of sense. It's just flat.
Isn't it weird, the words that we think we're pronouncing right for a long time, and then we realized we pronounced them wrong? Or sayings that we've done and realized,
I get that with songs.
Stupid.
Have you recently been talking to my friends or my coworkers?
No. Why? Do you have a bunch?
I have recently learned. I have always said
it's not pronounced sandwich.
No. Now I have to think about it. Explanation point. I always say explanation point.
Explanation
instead of
Yeah, you're exclaiming.
I'm explaining this to you.
Or the whole like unthaw.
Oh yeah. It's definitely
take it out to unthaw.
It's definitely thaw. Yep. What's the other one?
You get those with songs where you think you know the lyrics and you're singing along and it's not even close.
For sure. Yeah.
Well, do you hire if you're going to sell a house?
Realtor.
Do you hire a realtor or a realtor?
Realtor. Yeah, everybody says realtor, but it's realtor.
If you need power that's clean and efficient that comes from atoms, what kind of power do you call that?
Nuclear?
Or is it nuclear?
Nuclear.
It's kind of like root.
Oh, sure. Well, no, not really.
No, that's nuclear is a mispronunciation of the word nuclear. Oh. That's just a different
like realtor.
Pronunciation.
Realtor.
It's realtor. You know, they're selling realty. No, they're selling realty.
They're selling reality. Look at poor Sarah. She's got to go call off the rest of the day.
Again. I need to reread the dictionary.
Exclamation point.
Explanation point. That's great. Yeah. You know what I used to do that I really felt dumb about? Well, there's a few things in relation to sports that when I was a kid that I had, I thought that I was talking smart and I had no idea really what I was talking about.
Sure.
Like, let's say, for instance, how schooled are you in football rules, like the NFL and such?
They keep changing them on me.
Well, this one is old, though.
Okay.
So
does it include a spinner?
Maybe, because if a quarterback is in the backfield.
Yes.
And he has not been sacked yet, but they've got him. And he's not going anywhere.
Yes.
What do they call that? Do you remember? No. Okay.
I don't know what that's called off the top of my head.
You know, Sarah?
I'm really good about the camaraderie of
down.
sports and snacks and whatnot.
They're considered down. Well, if you're not moving forward, there's no more forward motion.
Right. So what they call it is in the grasp. It's in the grasp.
That's an actual
in the grass.
Rule?
Yeah. He's in the grasp. He has not been taken to the ground, but he's not going anywhere. Mm-hmm. It's over.
Sure.
It's called in the grasp. Mm-hmm. But I always thought it was in the grass.
I feel like that makes sense. They didn't have turf back when you were watching football in your early years.
When they first had American football, you didn't have a quarterback. You had what was called a spinner, and they weren't allowed to throw the ball forward. Their job was basically to take the hike and spin around, and they would hand it off to one of the running backs. Mm-hmm. At some point, they decided we're going to give all of the backs a destination or a designation. So the one that's closest to the center is called the quarterback. And then you go a few yards back from them, and you get the halfback. And if you go was it 5 to 10 yards back? You have the full back. So because they're fully back apparently.
And the tailback is all the way in the back.
And I get it. Yeah. Tailback.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yep.
Craziness.
Yeah. The other one that once I realized what I was saying and why it was wrong, I was like, oh, you're stupid. Was do you know you will know what the saying the go ahead score is? Do you know what that is? Like if an announcer says the Broncos with the go ahead touchdown.
Yeah. I know what that means.
Okay. It means that with that touchdown, they took the lead. Yeah. They're ahead. Yeah. I would just say it every time somebody scored. No matter, they could be losing 100-0 and they'd get it to, the Broncos with the go ahead score. Well,
they lose the game 7-42.
I must have thought that they went ahead and scored.
Well, it makes what you said makes logical sense, just not the way the term is actually used. And that's the funny thing about the English language in itself. I've become kind of fascinated with the English language, especially as it pertains to scripture, right? Because most people don't speak biblical Greek. So the way terms are used then, and if you go even further back in the Old Testament, the Hebrew language is different. And so when they say certain things, it can mean something different for the Hebrew as compared to the Greek. And we get goofed up in English because of the translation. A good example of that is someone who's like, well, in Revelation, when it says 1,000 years, that has to be literal. Mm-hmm. Well, why do you think it's literal? Well, the early church fathers were premillennialists. They thought there'd be a literal 1,000 years. True. were the early church fathers, like, a couple centuries after the events of Christ, a century or two later, were they Jewish or were they Gentile? Well, they were Gentile. Okay, then. It could be that they don't understand that Revelation is using figurative imagery that a Jewish mind would pick up on quickly, because it's their apocalyptic is part of their culture, their literature, whereas a Greek person a couple hundred years later would not catch that and would think it's literal.
Right.
That's kind of my point, because there's people today that will translate the Bible and be like, Revelation says this, and that's a literal interpretation. Well, that's one interpretation, and if you want to be faithful to what the first century Christians thought, they were in agreement that they were not in agreement, everyone, on what Revelation was saying. You have guys like Justin Martyr who would say, I believe that there will be 1,000-year reign of Christ on earth, a physical reign, but I have beloved brothers in Christ that disagree with me, and that's okay. Like the early church fathers talked about this. There was the position of premillennialism, but there was also what we call the traditional view, which was that there will not be 1,000-year reign, that it's speaking figuratively about the entire reign of Christ.
Okay.
And those are the two dominant views of Revelation that have carried forward, and there's other ones today that are different and goofy, but premillennialism, as it was understood in the first century, is not the same as we've talked about premillennial dispensationalism. That's the worldview that also has the theology that also has the idea of the rapture and the 7-year tribulation. That was not found in premillennialism of the first century.
Okay.
So the only difference is that premillennialism believed that when Christ comes again, there will be 1,000-year reign of Christ on earth prior to a new heaven and a new earth beginning. Dispensationalists add all other kinds of stuff in there that is not found. And you know what? Those who hold the traditional view also think that Christ will come again. It's just that the 1,000-year reign and the new heaven and the new earth are synonymous with each other.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying? So in either case, Christ is coming again and the party starts. Is it 1,000 years of earthly life and then the new heaven and the new earth, or does the new heaven and new earth start again? That was the distinction. So it wasn't a big deal.
Yeah. As
compared to today, where it's like, you got to get raptured, otherwise you're going to suffer through 7 years of the Antichrist and these things. All that detail is where it becomes a sticky wicket, because it's hard to support it biblically. And everyone should always go, like, when you hear a new idea, to go, oh, that's interesting. Where does it say that in the Bible?
Sure.
Right?
So
sorry, I got enough.
No, that's fun. And that reminded me of my many years of being in a snowplow in the middle of the night.
Yes.
Or a street sweeper listening to George and Nori, Coast to Coast AM. And there were all sorts of fun things that they would talk about.
Absolutely.
One guy was on, and he said that the reason that...
Did you ever feel like you were slowly losing your mind from the influences of what you were taking in at 3, 4 in the morning with the talks that were going on?
No, because it's entertaining. Okay. And when you're trying not to fall asleep...
That'll keep your attention.
Oh, yeah. It's fun. Okay, so I'll get back to what I was originally going to talk about, but there is not much creepier than... the episodes where they were talking about the chupacabra alien abductions or exorcisms or ghosts, like the ghosts of Gettysburg or things like this.
Yeah.
And then you're working in the summertime, sweeping the streets, and you have to go dump that at 3:30 in the morning out at the landfill where there's nothing for,
just
a mile and a half on each side of no living soul.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden a rabbit will come running across.
For those of you not from the prairie land, the rabbits here, they look like kangaroos.
Yeah.
They're huge.
Yep.
My dog is a golden retriever. When she saw her first rabbit, she did not know what to do with herself, because that rabbit looked like it could take her out.
Yeah.
Yep. I mean, if she would have chased after it, I don't think the rabbit would have run, and it just would have turned and squared up and been like, bring it. The whole point that I was making with the Revelation stuff is that in English, our language does not have standardized rules. So it's the hardest language to learn on the planet.
Yep.
Because it's constantly changing.
Yeah.
And the meaning of things is constantly changing. And yeah, I'm such an old man. I'm like, quit changing words. Use them the way they were intended.
Well,
it's confusing.
So what I was getting at, you reminded me of those shows that I would listen to and the fun things that they would talk about. And one of them was that the reason that Jesus hasn't returned yet, because you were talking about Christ's return.
Because he saw his shadow, so it's 6 more centuries of
no
winter.
So what's going on is, so people are born. Like their souls are in. There's a limited number of souls in heaven.
Okay.
Now there's a couple schools of thought on this. One of them is that there's X amount of souls in heaven.
Okay.
And Christ cannot come back until all those people have been born.
I see.
To get them through the system.
Oh, sure,
right?
sure. They're all
got to get through the heaven waiting line, you know?
Yeah, they're all in the station terminal waiting.
Yep. They're St. Peter's up there. All right, you're next. Let's go.
The airline keeps on delaying them.
Yep.
Yeah.
The other interesting.
Just flying standby, waiting to be born.
The other reason that
I've seen the movie Soul. I know how this works.
The other reason that Christ hasn't returned yet is because what's going on is all these people that are born are coming to earth, and if they die before they have accepted Christ as their Savior, then they go to the back of the line again.
So there's no cuts in that line.
And so he's not coming back until everybody has cycled through and accepted Christ as their Lord and Savior.
So it's interesting that you bring this up, because I want to point this out. What you have is a textbook example of Western thought and Greek philosophy trying to explain things that are beyond our understanding, that is removed from Christianity. And most people do not realize this. And the reason I bring this up is because it's, I've talked a little bit about this. In the next coming weeks, I get to go speak to Elevate, our senior high youth, about worldviews. Yep. And the two dominant influences for Western culture, which is basically every... it's Europe, it's the United States, it's everything, it's all of civilization that's flowed out of first Greece in the 700 BC through Rome and into our modern day to day. So regardless of what you think, America is the melting pot, but its influence of the zeitgeist or the groupthink, the spirit of the age comes out of the two pillars of Greek philosophy and Christianity. It's where our worldview comes from. It's how we understand things. It's the lens by which we look at and perceive and know. Okay? And what you just expressed is more of an influence of Greek philosophy than it is of Christianity.
Sure.
And there's a bunch of that stuff
that
we don't even think about. It's like, like the idea that, what direction is heaven?
Oh, sure. Well, it's up. Of course.
Well, it's Greek philosophy. The idea that souls are separated from the body. That's Greek philosophy. That's not Christianity. What do we teach? That we're resurrected in the body. That's Christianity. So you have Greek thought and Christianity has both a Hebrew worldview from the Old Testament in it. Yep. As well as a Greek worldview because of the New Testament. And they're both there. And when Christianity became Christendom, Greek philosophy became the way to communicate the ideas and the teachings of Christianity to the culture.
Sure.
So your values, the values and the meaning of life and what it means, identity, originally comes from Christian values, Christianity.
Okay.
How we understand that and interpret that comes out of Greek thought. This is in the Western part of the world. When you go to places like Japan, or the Asian part of the world, or the African part of the world, they don't have Western philosophy as their lens to understand God or any of that stuff. So it uses different lenses. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if we ever really think about that, but it's all over the place. If you just step back and look to see the Greek influence and learn a little bit about Greek philosophy, you can see it everywhere.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about that with the youth, because if you've ever wondered, like, why kids these days?
Yeah. Oh,
Every day.
Me?
Well, and if you even think, like, when movements become political and you hear about these, political movements in the news, they're usually satirized in some way. It's not clearly what they're all about. There's a bit of a lampooning, because once you get into politics, it's about influence over and against what something actually is.
Sure.
Right? So, it would be unfair of me to just say, well, the Black Lives Matter movement that we remember, it's this. Mm-hmm. Well, maybe some of it is.
Right.
Woke, what's the thing they talk about? Woke culture.
Wokeism.
A lot of these are so amorphous that it's hard to nail them down. But if you look at, like, major movements in our culture, the changing of the culture, you can see the underpinnings of Greek philosophy, as well as Christian values, and how those are being accepted or rejected and used. So we're going to talk about that with the youth to maybe get them better eyes to see, what's going on in their world. Can you see why you think the way you do?
Right. Yeah. Love it.
Yeah.
Now I want to listen to George Norrie.
Do you really?
Oh,
Did you pull him up?
You can, yeah.
I thought we were going to take the next 30 minutes and just turn the mic
should
to...
Should we just listen to George?
Pass the mic along.
I like listening to George. And George, if you're listening, I mean, this is just one criticism I have. If you've ever listened, so the show runs live Central Time from midnight to 4 a.m.
Where's he based out of?
He splits his time between California and, like, LA and St. Louis.
Okay.
Yep, he splits his time.
So he's not, like, in a shed somewhere recording.
No.
It goes live from midnight to 4?
It goes from midnight to 4.
So when he's in California, it starts at 10.
Yeah, 10 to 2. But when he's in St. Louis, it's midnight to 4. It's live. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, he's high dollar in this genre of listening.
But it's live. It's not like he records it in advance and then it's broadcast at that time?
Yeah, because they got callers. Like, sometimes that whole last hour will be people calling in.
Can you imagine? I know there's people that do it, and God bless them, but can you imagine having that be your usual all the time schedule?
That's your gig?
No.
Yeah.
Like, when the sun goes down, you're up.
I would hate it. So I worked plenty of overnights, and we would go a month on, a month off, a month on, a month off through the winter time. And I just hated that, because I never felt like I was really awake. You're just always foggy all the time. Mm-hmm. But I have a friend who still works for the city on the street department, and he actually likes that, just to get away from all the craziness of the day shift.
Yeah.
Because at nighttime, there's only, like, 2 or 3 of them.
There is something, like, fun and nice about, if you're doing overnight stuff, you're kind of being able to get stuff done when nobody's around, and then you can do your regular stuff during the day when everybody else is at work or whatever.
Except when you're sleeping.
Who needs that?
I did a night shift when I was in college. I lasted, I think, 6 months. Because I would work from 7 p.m. to 3 a.m. Friday and Saturday, and then Sunday and Monday I'd work from 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. Mm-hmm. And so on Monday I would work until 7 a.m., get up, go to class, come back. I was teaching karate at the time. I would teach karate, and then I would crash, and I would reset my schedule to be on a daytime schedule Tuesday through Thursday, and then I'd repeat it. And I started to, like, lose it. Like, it's like, I can't do this anymore.
It's tough. You have to have a system. Like, when I started at the city, I had no idea what I was getting myself into with the overnight shift. Plus, Eli was really little yet, and Haley was born while I was with the street department. So I had little kids too, and Tab at home trying to take care of them when I wasn't there at nighttime. So what I thought was, well, this is what I'll do. She worked in her early days with her old job. She would work from 6 to 2:30 until she got her management job. She'd work 6 to 2:30. So I thought, well, I want to be up by 3 o'clock when she comes home. So what I'll do is I'll go home. I'll get done at 7:30, and I'll go home and I'll get to bed by 8:30, and then that way by 2:30 I'll have had enough sleep. Well, that doesn't happen.
Right.
No way.
You gotta unwind a little bit. Otherwise, you're just going to lay there staring at the ceiling.
Which is what I did, but I would still get up. So there would be days when I couldn't fall asleep till 11 o'clock, and then I'm up by 2:30, and then I'm doing the night shift again.
Yeah.
So one day, by just total chance, I think I had a doctor's appointment. I had some kind of something going on in the morning, so I didn't get home and have a chance to go to sleep till 10.
Right.
So I told Tab, well, I can't go to sleep till 10, so wake me up at 5, and that was like, I was totally fresh.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, from now on, I'm going to sleep from 10 to 5. And that's what I did. And once I figured that routine out, it was good to go. It was pretty good. But before that, it was dangerous.
Well,
downright dangerous.
When I was working the night shift, I lived in an apartment building. You know what I discovered? People like to be up and play music,
earplugs,
during the daytime. And they don't really care if you've been working all night. They're up. It's daytime, man. So I would add that if you're working a night shift, maybe you have like a house.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. But you still need earplugs to sleep because everybody else is awake. So all of a sudden you'll get that garbage truck coming by, and then back beep.
If we've learned anything from the movie Frozen, when the sky is awake, I'm awake.
Yeah.
It's time to play.
Yep. Yeah, you're supposed to be up then. But anyway, my critique for George is that he runs from midnight to 4, supposed to start at midnight, and you know how it goes. It's your first 5 minutes are news updates and all that sort of thing. So you expect for the show not to start till like 12:05 or whatever, and then go until 12:30, and then you got another maybe 5-minute break. No, that's not how this works. He would come on. He would not start until probably 10 after, and then go straight through. But then he'd have that break after the bottom of the hour and wouldn't come back. So you'd have like you could have like a 12-minute break in between, now and the next time he comes on. That's terrible.
Yeah,
it is.
Put a break that up a little bit.
Right.
Come on, George.
That's where the advertising comes in. They do about 30 commercials at.
Yeah, but they could break it up a little bit.
Yeah.
Do you know who's like followed that? I feel like kind of style is some of the podcasts I listen to. There will be a point where I'm like, this is like a 2.5 minute ad,
and
it's
on a
an
podcast
hour-long
that
podcast,
is forever.
And I don't know what it is. This is to all advertisers out there. Don't ask like more than 2 of the same genre podcast to advertise for you, because I can only hear so many BetterHelp, like counseling.
All right, Ryan, cue the ad.
That's great.
Thanks for listening to that podcast. Now, if you were interested
use code that podcast for 20% off. Oh, I hate it.
Thank you for listening to that podcast. And now a word from this podcast.
So I'll ask my question, and then I think we have some questions.
We do have questions that have come in.
So we're talking a little bit about, even this guy. It would be great to analyze a bit of where he's coming from with these different things that they talk about. They're sensationalistic. They'll get you to listen. Get you interested
for sure. Yeah, there's all kinds of stuff.
But where does that come from? The desire about these things. And so I guess I would ask, like, I think you can tell where people are coming from if you know the influences of a worldview.
Sure.
And you see what it is that is popular, like popular media, popular entertainment. So I'm just kind of wondering, what are some popular shows or musicians that are out right now, and I'm too dated to be able to name them because I'd be off by about 10 or 15 years at least. So, I mean, Sarah, what are some good shows and locations of shows and what's good? What's out right now? What are the kids into these days?
What's the haps? I know a song that just came out today. Today, brand new.
Hair salon?
No, I've never listened to it. Maybe she sings the same thing. Megan Thee Stallion.
I was going to say, I really like Megan Thee Stallion.
Okay, so her song called Plan B came out
I have not
today
listened to
at midnight.
Yet.
Well, it was just dropped, evidently. I saw it on the Twitters this morning when I was checking what was trending.
Things that aren't trending, Twitter.
Apparently.
That's not true. They're on the upswing, and Elon's going to come in and.
What do you think about that, Sarah? Is this the death throes of Twitter? Is it going to is it going the way of MySpace?
I think so. Elon Musk is throwing money at it, but I think Ryan is the perfect.
Where I get my news from.
He's got the Midas touch, though. I mean, everything he touches turns to gold. Everyone thinks it's going to, collapse, and then boom. Like 2018, he was like on Skid Row.
Yeah. I tell you what, if I want news and I want it now and where do you go if you want news right now? Like, I need to know what's going on immediately. I don't have 45 seconds. I got to know now. Where do you go?
This is going to make me sound terrible. If it's not if somebody says something to me in passing, that's how I know about it. So then I'm going to Google it. But if I don't.
The Google machine.
Twitter.
That's
you go to Twitter?
That's where I want to look if I want the dirty details and what people are talking about.
No, that's where I go to get that's where I go to get the news. Like if like when the Russell Wilson trade thing happened.
Yeah.
That I heard somebody said, "Hey, evidently Russell Wilson's coming to Denver." I went straight to Twitter and bang, there it was. You had Sports Illustrated and ESPN and everything right there, and I could go right to the articles. I had the news in 30 seconds.
That's interesting. I don't trust any of the social medias to give me accurate news. I go to, I'll go to different things that I think will give me up-to-date information.
I go there.
I'll go to the website for NBC.
Sure. So I go to Twitter to find that because it's going to be right at the top. I don't have Twitter, so I don't know how it works. So if it's trending, it's going to be there. So somebody said that, hey, Russell Wilson's coming to Denver, and by the time I got on, he was already in the top 3 trending because it was going on. And then I could go on there, and a lot of times it'll have the most popular tweet or news story right there with it in the trending list.
Do you know why people are getting so fired up about Elon Musk having influence over Twitter? I think it's because so much of the news that's reported on different news sites starts at Twitter. They'll use Twitter as an aggregate to be is this accurate? Is this trending? Are people interested in this to then put on their lines? And if Elon Musk is the head of that, is he gonna rock the boat?
Well, maybe.
Is it going to change the way it's done?
Mark and I had an interesting conversation about this a week or two ago where...
Zuckerberg?
No, I don't talk. I don't talk to him. Facebook is dead.
Wait. From the thing that I saw, you're in the running to be the new Denver Broncos. From the news I read, which was walking by and seeing your office door. That's it's
on the chair over there.
Oh yeah, the news. Yeah, top three for the Broncos.
That's my trusted news source. Ryan's office window.
So, Pastor Mark Soldium and I had a conversation about how
not the owner of Meta.
When we were kids, when DJ and I were kids, you had the 3 stations, right? Yep. And you had ABC, CBS.
There wasn't as much news going on back then.
Well, like he said, if a story broke in the morning, unless it was something huge like the Challenger exploding, or something like that, if news broke in the morning, they had until 5:30 Central Time.
Yeah, they left you alone
to get the story right, and then they would report on it at 5:30. Right.
Mm-hmm. Very rarely would they be breaking in with a special report that would go longer than like when the girl fell down the well. Remember that? Back in the day?
Baby Jessica.
That was nonstop coverage on every channel. I don't know if CNN was even a thing at that time, but
they've been around for a long time.
Yeah, but
not CNN Plus though.
But
They're
it used to be, you'd come in the morning, and they'd be like, "Hey, here's the news. All right, enjoy your day."
Yeah.
And then you there's nothing to report until 6 p.m. and they'd be like, "Hey, news hasn't changed.
Yeah.
We'll see you tomorrow." And that was it.
Right. Well, now
there's a lot of news.
Well, yeah. Then you had the 24-hour news cycle, which kind of started with CNN, and so the news would be coming right away, and that was fast. But now with Twitter and social media, you don't even have to wait for CNN or ESPN to put something out. Their reporters will probably tweet it before it even goes through the channels to come out.
Through those official sources. Well, I mean, stories that like the New York Times or the Washington Post or any of the, I'll go old school, the Fargo Forum, even the info that they put in those places, the local newspapers or the big newspaper, USA Today, those stories have been out for a while by the time they report it. It's just now you're getting their perspective of, now we're reporting on this area. So, right.
Yep.
So, yeah, maybe there's something to Twitter. Maybe
that's where I go for news.
Okay.
Yeah.
That and the B.
The B first.
Good. I'm glad. But then you double check with Twitter.
And they've been squashed on Twitter because
I'm surprised you're not like, I'm against Twitter now. How dare they?
Elon's going to help them out.
He's going to bring it back.
Yeah.
I heard.
Did you see what Tom Brady tweeted?
No.
When the whole news about Elon Musk possibly buying Twitter came out, Tom Brady, and maybe you guys will understand this reference, but maybe not. But he sent out a tweet that said, "Hey Elon, now that you're buying Twitter, can you get rid of that combine picture?" Do you know what I'm talking about? There's a picture of Tom Brady from the NFL Combine. Do you know what the NFL Combine is?
Is this like when they're comparing, like when he started dating?
It's just him in his grungy shorts.
Yeah.
But it always is out there. Like this is the number one quarterback to ever walk the planet.
This is his stock picture for every reporting.
Yeah. So he asked Elon if he could get rid of that picture once he owns Twitter.
Well, okay. So you have Twitter. Mm-hmm. What movies are popular? What shows are popular right now?
I'm not a shows guy. I know that.
Give me 2 seconds.
Stranger Things is going to be coming out again soon.
Yeah,
4's coming out in I think May.
What is?
The season 4.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so that's a good example. Stranger Things. We would all say that's popular, right?
Yeah, Bridgerton.
I don't know what that is.
Bridgerton. Okay, Stranger Things. Why is it popular?
Well, I liked it. I liked the first season. I don't know if I'll even watch the next season that comes out because I lost interest fast.
Sure.
Kind of like Westworld. Now, that is not, as Pastor Cross would say, that is not a show that I baptize at all. But the first season was really, really good because there was suspense and there was like, you don't know what's coming next.
They're all of the same flavor. Yeah. Like it doesn't matter if it's family friendly or not. Mm-hmm. What I'm getting at is that here's what you have with most shows today in some way or shape or form. They are either to help you cope with hopelessness, mm-hmm. or, as in the case of Bridgerton, a distraction from hopelessness. What are they missing?
Jesus?
Yeah.
That's the Sunday school answer.
Well, and this isn't hard. I mean, if you, but the fact of the matter is, most of us don't even think or notice that because we're caught up in the story, and the story is reflecting culture. And there's all kinds of popular dystopian shows. Stranger Things is one. The Walking Dead is another. Mm-hmm. You know,
Westworld is. Don't watch it.
Yellowstone.
Take my word for it.
Let's go back a little bit. Breaking Bad. Was really popular.
Yeah.
The Sopranos.
Yep.
They all have there's no hope how do you cope with the situation? Now, some examples are, it usually ends up being the strong man or the most clever person is able to overcome in hopeless situations. But here's the reality of things, okay? We have an entire culture of youth, the next generation, that from what I have heard, and I can't verify this. If someone wants to verify it, please do. But the reports that I have heard about the sociological impact of Generation Z, with COVID and just with life, much less religious, higher amounts of suicide, drug abuse, all that stuff. And I know every generation is like the kids these days, but I mean, that's a concern about the direction of the culture as a whole. And what are they consuming? They're consuming messages that are about how to overcome hopelessness in a hopeless situation. I'm a big superhero fan. I like superhero movies, but even the storytelling in the superhero movies are usually like dystopian. It's a hopeless situation. The only one who can overcome it is someone who has extra abilities, is extra special. And it's usually not like the thing that the Marvel movies did is they were very good about telling the story of good versus evil. Most of the movies and shows that we see today, there's not a clear line.
It's a gray.
It's very gray. Well, what is being communicated, and again, art is a distraction, but it's also a reflection of the culture that we're in, is this just overarching hopelessness, that there's no hope for you.
Right.
There's no way to, it's very antithetical to the American ethic of, work hard, keep your nose to the grindstone, you can accomplish anything. Now it's, you could accomplish anything, but why try?
Yeah.
Because nothing matters. Well, the reason I'm bringing that up is the heart of that is, there's nothing new under the sun. One of the Greek philosophies that is very influential in the Western world is nihilism. Or nihilism, however you, it's kind of like, is it nuclear or nuclear? I think it's nihilism. It comes from the Latin word, which means nothing. And basically what nihilism teaches is that there is no meaning to life.
Okay.
And this is all there is. The highest value of nihilism is free choice and free will, because that's all there is.
Sure.
So meaning in life is what you make of it. Nihilism never really caught on in among the ancient Greeks, because the question would be like, okay, well, if you're right, what do we do? And the answers that they gave were never very satisfying. It was, this is all there is. Be your best you. It never really caught on, because even the ancient Greeks had this idea of an objective truth that would be referred to as, the logos, wisdom, and that there were sacred beings, the gods, that oversaw everything. And so much of life was governed by the gods. Christianity, we have the same thing. It's not Zeus and Apollo, but it's God who created, right? That's our starting point. And so in the history of Western culture, up until probably in the last 50 years, nihilism was tempered by Christianity. So what's the best part of nihilism? Freedom. Liberty. What tempers liberty is what we call inherent rights, which in American thought is not rights that come from the government. It's not like the government can say, you can do this, you can do that. That happens in European countries where they were under a king system or a royal system where there was one ruler and they were the boss. We've always had democracy and freedom in our DNA. The bad side of freedom is really anarchy as a political system, which has its driving force nihilism, the idea that nothing matters. If nothing matters, then do whatever you want because there's no consequences or nothing.
Right.
Christianity has always tempered that with the idea of inherent rights. And where do rights come from? They come from God. Okay? So liberty and rights mesh together, Greek thought with liberty and a relationship with God, Christianity, is what has held Western culture together. What we're seeing is the influence, in my opinion, of Greek philosophies that without the temperament of Christianity and the understanding that there is an objective truth beyond what you think, you remove that objective truth, truth becomes in the eye of the beholder, and the philosophies, there's nothing new under the sun, are given a new name. So what is nihilism today? Well, it's modern rationalistic atheism. So if there is no God, then there is no ultimate truth. The only truth that we have is what's before us. Okay. And I'm going to talk to the youth about this, that when you look at a couple of other philosophies, you see them playing out. Another one is Platonism. Platonism is the idea that there's two realms in reality, the spiritual and the physical. The spiritual is good, the physical is bad. Okay, so what is spiritual? Your thoughts and your feelings. What is physical? Your outer appearance. And we hear this in our language, like live your truth. If there's no truth because of nihilism, there's no objective truth, then there's only subjective truth. And the truth is your thoughts and your feelings, the spiritual you, your identity. We talk quite a bit about identity nowadays, don't we? Mm-hmm. What doesn't matter? The physical trappings. And a good example, I thought of this, of Platonism working. And Platonism is something that shows up in Christianity too, like our talking about where's heaven located? Well, up. Heaven is good. Where's the earth? It's down.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Earth is bad.
Yep.
And the earth is bad only because it is changing, it is finite, it's decaying. This is how Plato talked about these things. The wonderful things, the true things, are the spiritual. Your mind and your feelings. That's how we experience the spiritual, right? What we would call soul, your soul. And even that talk about the soul goes up, but the body stays down, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
That's antithetical to Christianity. That comes out of Greek philosophy. Okay. We had a Supreme Court justice in the news, and it made news, and I thought it was interesting to me because I heard Platonism. It was Supreme Court Justice. Is it Jackson? Is that correct? Am I getting her name right? Ketanji Jackson Brown.
Oh yeah.
Or is it Ketanji Brown Jackson? I can't remember.
Jackson Brown.
Yep.
Okay. Anyway, she was asked the question by somebody in her her hearings to define what is a woman.
Oh yeah.
And there was crickets.
She's not a biologist.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which is really interesting because how do you define a woman? Mm-hmm. Well, from Platonism, you would define a woman by the person's perceived gender within themselves.
Sure.
Whereas biology would say a woman is a biological female.
Mm-hmm.
That's the body.
Sure.
But when we remove the body as necessary or even of value, then it's just the spirit that matters, what you think, what you feel. The philosophy behind, I would say in many ways, the transgender movement comes from Platonism. Like that's its starting point. That's its influence to understand the universe in that specific situation. Whereas what does Christianity say? We are all made in God's image, and body and soul joined together is a person.
Okay.
Whereas transgenderism would make the argument that the person is the spirit, not the physical outers. The outer is bad, and the outer can be changed. Are you following what I'm saying?
Yeah.
This isn't a judgment thing. This is just understanding where different worldviews come from, and how do they relate to Christianity, and do they intermesh?
Sure.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I'll add one more, and it's if you add nihilism, which is there is no meaning, it's nothing, with Platonism that the spirit is good, the flesh is bad, therefore truth is not objective. There's not objective truth. There's only subjective truth. Mm-hmm. Your truth. What is the meaning of life?
There's no answer.
this is where you get the third philosophy that if you remove Christianity, it's called Epicureanism. And Epicurus taught that the goal in life is to have maximum pleasure and minimum suffering.
Oh, sure.
In other words, to be happy.
Yeah.
All right. So, what will we call this today? It's a Greek philosophy. It works in today, but you could call it ethical hedonism. That the goal of life is to be happy, and as long as you don't do anything that infringes on the happiness of someone else, that it's consenting adults, do whatever you want to do.
Sure.
Well, those are the driving influences in major movements in our culture today. So, and you can see them in our media, in our music. You mentioned some rapper, and immediately my mind went to, this is how old I am. I'm like, I've heard Miley Cyrus say, as long as you're with a consenting adult, do whatever you want, regardless of the dangers that are inherent in things like sex, drugs, and rock and roll, right?
Yeah.
I'm not saying anything new. We've been having these discussions as a culture for 50 years, right?
Right.
I mean, Elvis was anathema at one point, of corrupting the youth. But when you begin to say the breakdown of relations between male and female, there you have God's intention for creating and sustaining and protecting life, and God institutes marriage to protect that. That's all cut underneath by ethical hedonism. Because the goal of life is not to be in relationship to God and to create, sustain, and live life. The ultimate goal of life, the meaning of life, is to be happy. And so if your happiness is infringed upon by marriage, that's bad.
Sure.
You following where I'm going with this?
Yep.
And all of our media supports this. Like, I shouldn't say all of our media, but the most popular things that people watch supports all this stuff. You can't tell me that and the thing about ethical hedonism is that the ethics change. What is moral today may not be moral tomorrow, and it all depends on what the rules of the day are.
Right, it's relative.
Here's a great example of everything that I'm talking about. Tiger King. I mean, talk about a train wreck that show was.
Yeah. Yep.
Hopeless situation after hopeless situation, and look at, ethical hedonism on display, right? Anyway, so that's what we're going to talk about in a couple of weeks, and I'm still playing around with it in my head. So
cool.
If anyone has any suggestions, bring it on.
Very nice. Well, we talked about getting to questions.
Do we want to try one quick?
Well, I think we're only going to get to one, and we'll get to the one because I don't want to leave Sarah in suspense.
I don't either, because this is...
There was one that came to me personally from a regular listener. Maybe I'll give his name. Maybe I won't. Maybe you'll figure it out after I ask the question. But this listener sent me a message personally to ask you, Sarah, is a hot dog a sandwich?
I just rolled my eyes.
Hold on.
So
That's not the one I want.
I'm not going to answer this question.
What?
Directly. I do, however, so I just talked about this, little backstory on my life. Wednesdays is when I go up to Grand Forks and I work in office with my whole team, and my coworker, Jamie, her eldest son loves to ask people that question. She goes, one time I just asked him, why do you ask people that? That's so weird. Why do you ask people that? And he's like, I don't care what your answer is. I care about if you are willing to think creatively and see other people's point of views and are willing to try to give it an answer.
Okay.
So I pictured in my head Jamie being 7, but the response there is a little bit older than 7. So I pictured like my son Dylan saying that, like, I don't care so much what you think or what you say. I'm curious about how you answer the question.
Yeah. Are you willing to think about something that's so off the wall?
Sure.
That it will be inquisitive enough. On that note, I don't think a hot dog's a sandwich.
No?
Nope.
Okay, how come?
I
You're gonna have to
like,
qualify this, otherwise this listener, who you probably already know who it is gonna send me another message saying, she wouldn't she wouldn't explain herself. She wouldn't stand behind her answer.
I would say that a sandwich is defined by something that's between two separate pieces of bread.
Oh,
I feel like that's what makes the sandwich.
Sure.
You can get fancy, an open face sandwich. Blech.
Sure. Yeah.
So what about a hamburger then? Because that's two pieces of bread.
Sure.
That's a
I
sandwich?
consider that a sandwich.
That would fall under the sandwich. What's the term we use in anthropology? Like the sandwich
It's like-
classification.
Yeah.
Classification
It's part of
of
its
a sandwich.
species, biome,
Yes,
kingdom, blah, blah,
subspecies.
blah.
All right, so
Yes.
you are saying that a hot dog is not a sandwich because
Yep.
it is using one solid piece of dough-like substance. All right.
You bring up a good point, because here's my question: if you cook a hot dog over a fire, it's still a hot dog.
Yeah.
You put it in a bun, it's a hot dog.
Yeah.
It's not a hamburger until you put it between the buns.
Yeah. Otherwise, it's just a
A patty.
patty.
It's got a completely different term.
All right. Well, Derek will be satisfied. Now, here's my next question to go along with this, and then we better bolt. If by your definition, one solid piece of dough-like substance, okay, here's what I'm getting at. What if you make yourself a peanut butter and jelly sandwich on one piece of bread that you fold together?
Oh yeah.
Those are my favorite peanut butter sandwiches.
Those are the
But
best
is it
kind.
a sandwich?
I wouldn't say that.
What?
I made myself a peanut butter
So what is
roll
it
up.
then?
Roll up.
A peanut butter roll?
I don't know.
You're getting way too in the technicalities with me. on this one.
I would say with that, by the time it takes me to finish eating that,
Yeah.
I'm on to the next thing. That's a quick here and there.
What?
I'm not thinking about it too much.
And so when you make, and that's since I was a kid, that's how you make a peanut butter sandwich. You
It's the better way to make a sandwich.
and it's
Well, it's
healthier
not a
for
sandwich.
you too.
Well, yeah, it is.
It's healthier for you too, because
But it's not a sandwich.
Yeah, but it's healthier for you because you're getting half the carbohydrates in the bread. Just
but
saying.
just as much peanut butter.
Yes, and okay, so this is going to be kind of gross, but we in my house make a Dewey Lura special. That's my dad's name.
Okay.
Bread,
Yeah.
peanut butter,
Yeah.
salted butter.
Okay.
On top of the peanut butter?
Yeah.
What's wrong with that?
Well, I'm already thinking, I have a hard enough time spreading like butter onto bread sometimes. Like if you take that stick straight out of the fridge.
Don't. Why would you use stick?
No.
You got to use the tub.
Yeah, and you know what? It drives my wife nuts because what you end up getting in the butter,
Peanut butter.
peanut butter.
You got to use tub butter.
So you make a peanut butter sandwich.
Yes. We call it the Dewey special. Papa Dew special.
Hold on.
My kids love it.
It's 2022, Ryan. You can't tell me you're still enjoying a country crock margarine out of your fridge.
Yes.
That is disgusting.
Yes.
Do they still make that?
Yes.
It's you realize it's basically liquefied plastic.
Yeah, that's like plastic and oil.
Why would you? You can't do that.
Although-
you have to leave the stick out all the time.
Oh, it's the best.
There's flies landing on it.
That's
and
why they
whatnot.
make a cover with a cloche.
Yeah, but then you have to buy
or a
something
lid.
extra.
Or
The-
you take
the-
a Tupperware
the
and
country
shove it in there.
crock-
Call it good.
The country crock comes with a lid already there.
And
You know what's
could
great
do-
about Country Crock, and I can't believe it's not butter. Those things. That was my Tupperware growing up. That and Cool Whip.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I suppose, Sarah, that you use actual jelly rather than jam for your peanut butter and jelly sandwich too.
I don't really eat peanut butter and jelly sandwiches.
What is the difference between jelly and jam?
Well, one will spread on the bread and the other one won't. So
One just clumps?
One's more
so we
chunks
get
of fruit in it.
so we get jam at my house.
You
So-
jam?
Yeah, because the jelly doesn't spread; it clumps all
Do you-
over. The bread tears apart.
Do you spread it out? Are you old school? Do you get the glass can, or they have like squeezing
Oh yeah, we do the squeezing
bottles
stuff.
now
now.
for-
See, I think that's
for-
the issue.
Yeah.
for jam?
You get the Smucker's jar of Concord grape,
Yeah.
and it
Jelly?
spreads right on out smooth.
I bet that's jam. I bet it's not jelly.
I don't think so.
Look it up. Jelly doesn't spread.
So what I hear you saying is you don't put butter on your peanut butter sandwiches. which you should. What you do is you put
I will
jelly.
on my toast. If I have a piece of toast.
Oh yeah, butter and then peanut butter.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
What about
And jelly.
peanut butter and then butter
jam.
on your toast? If you put the peanut butter on first on a hot piece of toast, it starts to liquefy.
Yep, it does.
And you can put butter on it, and the butter melts, and you see the butter melting.
Really?
If I'm gonna do, not that would be gross, but I'd put it in kind of the grosser category. If I'm gonna do that, I'm just gonna commit and put Cheese Whiz with the peanut butter.
Well,
and
why wouldn't you?
It's delicious.
How else do you eat your cheesesteak? With Cheese Whiz.
You gotta have Cheese Whiz. That's how they do it in real life.
Peanut butter toast.
It's not a Philly cheesesteak, and if you said Philly cheesesteak in Philly, they will laugh at you because it's just a cheesesteak there.
Yeah. Yep.
You're already at Philly. You don't need the name it. We know.
All right. That sounds good. And you know what? I think we're done.
Yeah.
That's good enough. All right.
Come on, Sarah.
Am I praying us out of here?
Yep.
I feel like I need to start praying for Ryan's taste. Lord,
We
I pray
probably
that
lost
Ryan
a bunch
gets
of
over
people.
country crock. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this time to gather and talk about all things that you have gifted to us, Lord. I pray that the youth coming up listening to understanding their circumstances and understanding the influence of the world mixed with their faith, they can find some answers and find hope and truth and light just from you. And Lord, I just pray that everybody listening to this will be blessed and know you. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Boy, Ryan, I was going to say before you close us out that this has definitely been a post-Easter Sunday conversation. Just all over the place.
All over. All right. Well, yeah, we're out of here. We're done. But before we go, I'll let you know that if you want to send a question, you can send that to atonement.live. You can go there, find the link for that podcast. You can also go to thatpodcast.net, or there is a That Podcast Facebook page. You can put that there, or you could even put it in the comments of this video if you're watching this on the YouTubes, which reminds me that if you want to watch that podcast or listen to that podcast, you can do so anywhere you get your podcasts or on YouTube. And speaking of YouTube, you can find all of our past episodes there. You can find any Atonement Fargo content on YouTube. And if you would like to join us this weekend, you can do so at 4601 South University Drive in Fargo, or you can go to YouTube and search Atonement Fargo, or you can go to atonement.live or atonementfargo.org. So for Pastor DJ Lura, that was a lot.
Yeah, it was.
For
you got me thinking about that I went and bought an auxiliary cord for my car. So you know what I can listen in my car on Spotify now? That podcast.
There it is. All right.
And I sit there and I listen. I think, boy, he's brilliant. Listen to that. That Ryan Janke, he's something else. Listen to him go.
All right. For Pastor DJ Lura and Sarah DeYoung, I'm Ryan Janke. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time for another riveting episode of That Podcast.